We started running down the list of things to talk about today, and it just, you're sort of enveloped by this coronavirus. Enveloped. Sports world continues to adjust to the spread of the coronavirus, and it's important how we talk about this story because even yesterday, when I start to bring it up, then all of a sudden it's party lines, it's political. I'm not trying to weaponize the coronavirus. I'm just trying to be smart about it. I don't know. I don't have the answers, but I'm trying, and I'm covering the sports angle with this. It gets heated. It gets ugly. This is what happens in the world of sports. It's my team versus your team here. But, this kind of discourse is certainly spread into other areas. And then the social media folks come in and magnify our differences even more. And we're seeing some of this when it comes to the coronavirus's impact on sports. And some say canceling the games is going too far. Others say we're not going far enough. Hey, look at what happened in Italy. It just started out with a couple of hundred, and then all of a sudden you've got an entire the northern part of Italy is quarantined. Fans are extremely connected to the NCAA tournament. The Ivy League canceled its basketball tournament. And while I feel terrible for those athletes, the fans that want to see their school get an opportunity to go to the NCAA tournament, I don't know, maybe we collaborate. Maybe we communicate. Maybe we just try to stay informed here. Because when it comes to the coronavirus in sports, we have plenty to yell at each other about when the real sports resume. But not now. I mean, it's just, I don't know what the right answer is. I don't know if anybody does. I do know that money is going to play a role in this with March Madness. I also think that, the potential of lawsuits here will play a role in this. You got coaches, you got commissioners, athletic directors who say, well, March Madness is going to go on. It will. It has to go on. I don't know. The Ivy League canceling its basketball tournament. The Ivy League didn't have a conference basketball tournament 3 years ago. Now, it's the Ivy League, and it was a 4-team playoff, and if I'm Harvard, I'm disappointed because I beat Yale twice during the regular season, I believe, and Yale's going to the NCAA tournament. But could you have played this without fans? That's what I was curious about. And why is it okay that Yale can't play in its conference tournament, but it can go to March Madness? And we've called everybody here to see if somebody wanted to talk. Tommy Amaker at Harvard. And, they politely declined, which I understand, because I don't know if this is a winnable situation for somebody. But all we're doing is trying to monitor this, trying to understand this. And it's not just as a radio host talking about this sports aspect. It's about what we do in our everyday life. Go into New York City. My daughter was sent home, so she was going to be working from home. Another daughter sent home from school. So it happens to us. We're trying to figure this out as well. But, when I had somebody yesterday call in and say, you got to have games. I mean, I can't imagine missing LeBron throwing the chalk in the air. Like, what? Of all the things that you're going to miss, it'd be LeBron with his powder before the beginning of the game. So, we'll continue to talk about this, see what happens. I was waiting for a domino to fall, and I thought it was going to be something to do with the NBA. Now what you're finding is some of these, the NBA and Major League Baseball are looking at swapping games where if the home city, like Seattle for baseball, with Texas, I think they open up at the end of March. They might have to flip it to Texas. But by then, who knows what's going to be happening in Arlington? It's very fluid now. But I think the reaction, the overreaction, the underreaction, I'd rather overreact than look back and go, man, what were we thinking? Because it didn't start like much in Italy. I think it was 600 cases, maybe 700, and then it exploded. And we're about 10 days behind them. And that's what my big concern would be. Put you in an arena. Do you want to go? Do you have to sign a waiver to go to an arena? There's a lot here, a lot to untangle. And I don't think it's simple. And I think as sports fans, we go, oh, come on, we're Americans. We fight through it. We don't let something like a virus hold us down. Okay. I would plead with caution with this, or at least more understanding and more research with it, because you're going to make a decision or not make a decision, and you don't know how that's going to affect somebody. But if it's okay for you to go to March Madness but not have your conference tournament, I find that hypocritical. Now, they may not have any legal recourse to say to the Yale basketball team, hey, we can't prevent you from going there. We can prevent you from playing in a conference basketball tournament. We can't prevent you from going to March Madness. So we continue to untangle this. It's not over by any means with somebody doing something drastic here. And it might seem like it's drastic, but in a couple of weeks, a month, it might not appear as drastic. But in the meantime, we continue to watch sports. I watched basketball last night. I watched the Horizon League. There was a lot of games. I watched Gonzaga last night. There's a lot of fans in the stands, and they're probably saying, hey, I'm okay. Are we going to test you? Are there going to be tests? Will we have a test in time? That's another thing. We don't even have a test yet. To get a test that you might take. I told you a friend of mine who was in Vietnam went to a bar. They made him. They took his temperature to see if he had a temperature, and he didn't, so he could go into the bar. Like, I don't know where we're going, but I see what's happening in other countries, and they're about 2 weeks, 3 weeks ahead of us in what has happened with the coronavirus.
I'm good. Feeling good. Like my yard coat sweatshirt.
I didn't say that.
I'm asking if you like it.
HIPAA or something.
Like the colors, like the logo, a little back through the goat there.
Dan Wolken caught my attention, USA Today national columnist, and now he doesn't pick the headline, by the way. Just an FYI, the writers don't pick their headline. Opinion, it's time for NCAA to make the right call, tough call, and cancel March Madness. And Dan joins us now. When did you start thinking about March Madness being canceled?
I started thinking about it yesterday when the Ivy League tournament was canceled. We saw a number of colleges basically go online only and send kids home, talking to administrators and frankly just asking a question, which I asked at the top of the story. What happens if a player tests positive for coronavirus? What happens, even I'm going to Tampa next week. I'm supposed to go cover that regional in Tampa. Let's say, Florida State plays Arkansas Little Rock in the first round, and Florida State wins and advances, and they're going to the Sweet 16, and then 4 or 5 days later, it comes out that one of the Arkansas Little Rock players tests positive for coronavirus. Well, the way we're doing this now, congressmen who were in the same room as somebody at a convention are in quarantine. Our office today, reporters who were at a conference convention with people who tested positive for coronavirus, they're in quarantine, and everyone in our office is pretty much working from home. That's what's happening in this country. So unless you can answer what happens if a player tests positive, which does not seem that far-fetched to me, or coach or game official or whoever, then I don't know if we really should be having this tournament at all.
How much of this, and maybe it's rhetorical, is based off money and the potential for lawsuits? Well,
there's a couple things, and I don't think any of us are privy to the details of what is in the CBS contract with the NCAA and what kind of insurance implications there might be if something like this impacted the NCAA tournament. But obviously there's financial considerations involved on all sides. Frankly, I think these conference tournaments, the SEC, the ACC, Big Ten, Pac-12, acting as if nothing is happening right now, I think they're being deeply irresponsible in holding their tournaments this weekend with fans in the stadium. That just doesn't seem very smart. I mean, look at the SEC. Dan, Vanderbilt University is basically shut down. Everyone's been sent home. Yeah. They're holding the SEC tournament a mile from Vanderbilt's campus with players from Vanderbilt involved in the tournament. So given just how little we know about the virus and how bad it's going to get, I think these decisions need to take a much wider view here than just money.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out what is the next step because,
right.
When I saw the Ivy League canceled its tournament, that's not a big revenue, a moneymaker there, and it's 4 schools that were affected by this. But then Yale is going to go to March Madness, so you couldn't have Yale play in a game in its conference tournament, but the NCAA, Yale doesn't have any jurisdiction over this to say you can't go. I'm confused about this. It feels a little hypocritical that They can't play in that tournament, but they can play in this tournament.
Yeah, and there's other teams at some of these Ivy League schools who are going and playing games. I think the rationale is that there's a certain critical mass where the number of people in a gathering, you have, 10 men's and women's teams and all the staff and all that in one place, that constitutes a risk to those campuses. And so I sort of understand that versus one team playing one team, if that's the rationale they're going to use. But again, like all these NCAA tournament sites next week, and this is, I think, just not what is being talked about nearly enough. The fans is one thing, and frankly, at this point, I'd be a little surprised if they are going to allow fans in these stadiums, at least for next week. But all these different sites are going to have 8 different teams. That's a lot of people in one building, just kind of given what we know about the spread of this thing. So I just think there's not enough attention being paid to that. And the players, again, what happens if a player gets this? What kind of risk does that present to the NCAA?
Can we be overly cautious in a situation like this?
Well, look, I think it's a tough thing to balance overreacting and underreacting. The fear I have, I shouldn't say fear, the calculation that in my mind makes it make sense to me to delay or cancel these big sporting events is because we just don't have testing readily available in the country right now. We don't know how many people have it. We don't know what the growth rate is. So there's a good chance we could be looking up in a week and this thing has spiraled in terms of numbers of infections, numbers of clusters, different cities. Who knows what that's going to look like? So there has to be a point where if that gets bad enough that you have to take drastic steps as a country to control this, to slow the spread of this, like Italy, right? That's what's happened in Italy, just so that their society could function, so that their healthcare system could deal with the strain of a lot of very sick people, even if a young, healthy person would not necessarily be at risk. So, there's just so many things that I think it's tough for us to wrap our minds around because it hasn't hit us like that yet.
Best guess on what you think happens to the NCAA tournament? Yeah,
again, and this what I say right now could be different in 3 hours or 10 hours or 24 hours. But I would say it's going to be difficult for the NCAA to put this tournament on next week with fans in the stadiums. What if there's a step beyond that? We'll see. I don't know that they have to make that decision today, but they need to make it soon. And the tone of their statement yesterday afternoon certainly indicated that big and tough decisions could be coming.
Dan, thanks for joining us. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
That's Dan Wolken, USA Today national columnist, saying it's time for the NCAA to make the right call, tough call, cancel March Madness. I also thought that it was kind of strange that when the NBA said, we're going to take precautionary measures here, we're going to keep the writers out of the locker room. So keep the unwashed journalist out of the locker room. That'll do it. Like, I was offended by that. Hey, that's the start here. We're going to keep the writers, the broadcasters out of the locker room. That's the first step in kind of getting this coronavirus under wraps. Yes, McLevin.
I've seen a lot of people say that this is really bad for journalism and that they think that teams are going to keep that policy after the coronavirus too. You've been in a lot of locker rooms. Is it easier? How much more effective is it to be in the locker room than at a press conference?
Well, they've made everybody available. Back when I was going into a locker room as a reporter, we didn't have you would have a press conference maybe with the coach. But a lot of times, if you wanted to get a soundbite, you had to go track down a player in the locker room. And that was not always easy because these guys would hide. I remember covering the New York Giants. And in the 3 years I covered the Giants, now this isn't on a regular basis, a daily basis, I never got to interview Phil Simms or Lawrence Taylor in the locker room. Because when we had media access and we went in there, they were never available. now, these leagues make these players available for you. You don't need to be in the locker room. Some of the old school like that. They like to pull somebody off to the side, but it feels like in the big press conferences, you can still get your opportunity to talk to everybody. Yeah, McClung.
I always find it weird, and I know you've been here. We're waiting for a guy to change. There's no other interviews like that in public. Where
It's
always been odd, right?
Yeah, it's silly that we can't just we got to get you right as you get out of this. The game ended, you're coming out of the shower, you got to talk to you, and then you're there while a guy is getting dressed, and you're just standing there. And I always thought, God, what am I doing?
You got to be standing though. You can't be sitting, if you know what I mean.
No, it's there's been some uncomfortable situations there. It was just never good. Never good. I felt bad for a guy. He was one of those guys that you'd see his hand. He never asked any questions. You'd just see his hand with a microphone, and then he would gather sound. And Bob was down low angle, because we didn't want to have his hand in, he was getting in the way of the camera. And we were in a basketball locker room, and Bob, I think, got hit. Somebody turned when they were getting dressed and hit Bob in the face. So we got a good laugh out of that.
You mean like a reverse cup check? He was
no,
you know what I mean? He was checked by.
Yeah. He ran into something, and because somebody was getting, you're right there on top of somebody. I mean, it's horrible. Yeah, Fritzy.
It's awkward, but if you get that fresh reaction a little bit sooner, and you're in an environment where they may be more likely to open up to you on the side in a locker room as opposed to being on a dais in front of a bunch of people. You don't think they're going to temper their words in front, just sitting on a dais in front of all the
I'll wait for the dais. I don't need to be there getting somebody coming right out of the shower, and because he's going to give me something fresh that he couldn't give me 5 minutes later when he got dressed. You never did this.
I did that a couple times.
When?
Actually. When I was in L.A., I went to a couple Rams, Dodgers, Angels.
Yeah, but you
I
had
didn't go on a regular basis.
You had a microphone, but it wasn't hooked up to anything. You just went in the locker room.
Fisher Price talking.
Yes.
But I would think it'd be a little more intimate, one-on-one in a corner.
No, I don't want intimacy.
They're going to give generic responses to placate a whole mass group of people in some auditorium or some room.
Quiet. You know nothing of what you're talking about here. Intimacy. Hey, come here. Hey, you just got out of the shower. Come here.
Then how do you get the exclusive interview after the game that you got that quote for your newspaper if they're saying the same thing to everybody in a room of 50 people?
I should send you into the lock. Well, we can't go now because the NBA won't allow us. But no, you can't. No. It's humiliating when you're there. Oh, God. No, I don't even want to go into this.
Yeah, we do.
No, because it's
too late.
I was at Shea Stadium, Mets Cardinals. And I walk in, and there's one guy in there. He's got his bat, and he's naked. And he's just sitting there. And I was going to interview him, but I didn't know what to say. Like, you walk in, a guy's naked, and he's just there holding his bat. And I went, no. I just said, hey, I'll come back. And then he goes, no, just go. I'm good now. And I go, no, you're not. No. God. Yeah, Paul.
What if you said to him, hey, excuse me, would you mind putting that thing away? And he puts his baseball bat away. No, I mean.
Yeah, I know. There was a guy who wore a shirt. Oh, God. He had tripod on the back of his shirt. And he would walk around with his shirt on and nothing else on in the locker room. And I went, what am I doing? This isn't what I signed up for. Yeah, so it's humiliating, Todd, your intimate setting.
They can just throw on a team robe for a second.
They don't.
So they like the fact that everyone's being made uncomfortable.
There were guys who liked making you uncomfortable. They did. And a guy who didn't like you, I had a guy who did not like me. And he was getting dressed. He turned and he dropped his towel, and so his butt's right in front. He mooned me, basically. And then he was getting dressed, but he turned and, got dressed, bent over to, put on his pants. And I went, all right, message sent right there. Loud and clear. Gotcha. Yeah, Paul.
Was it Maurice Cheeks?
No.
It's not bad.
Oh God. Now Todd's going to
I
have.
really am. I'm thinking all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, anatomy, sports anatomy.
Was it
thing.
Warren Moon?
No, whoa,
two.
that's 2-0. 2-0. Todd,
Not good. Frankie Buttocks. I don't have anything.
Frankie Buttocks.
There's no one in Frankie Buttocks.
That's I'm going to take away. Paulie's up 4-0.
4-0.
Yeah,
Just double the score.
Yeah,
Jake Butt, the tight end. That's too easy. That's too easy, I think.
Man, got another one.
Dave Butts.
All right,
Different
You're
spelling.
rallying.
As you so kind of point out. You're doing that.
Big day yesterday. Charles Barkley came on the show and created some buzz around the entertainment world, where he made the comparison with Draymond Green and somebody in a boy band, like NSYNC, where you're not Justin Timberlake, but you act like you're Justin Timberlake. And I haven't seen any comment from Draymond Green to follow up on that with Barkley. We did hear from Joey Fatone, who was in NSYNC, and he said, thank you for the shout out on the show, and that Charles Barkley had Joey Fatone's back. Yes,
So I sort of followed through that Twitter thread there with Joey Fatone, and somebody had copied him on it and said basically like, well, if you're so not famous, how did they know your name? Sort of like saying like, don't worry, Joey, you are actually that famous.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, he's famous.
Right. So I'm just saying that there's still diehard NSYNCers and Joey Fatone fans that are, you don't want to get them riled up, Dan.
Oh, I get that. I mean, like I wouldn't take on One Direction. What are they? The Directioners?
What are they? Come on.
No, I don't know.
The onesies?
1D? I don't know. I should know that now that I'm friends, air quotes, with Harry Styles.
Just don't go after the Believers, Dan. You want no part of those little ankle biters.
The Believers?
Believers.
Oh, yeah. And the Monsters with Lady Gaga. No, I'm respectful with those fan bases there. But Joey Fatone, Lance Bass, got to mention, yeah. But they're not Justin Timberlake, and I think that's what Charles was saying there. But Joey Fatone, thank you for the shout out there. We appreciate that. Joey, actually, a very nice guy. I stood next to him at the Macy's Day Thanksgiving parade.
Of course you did.
I did.
Of course.
Yeah.
Like just on the sidelines or in the parade?
No, on watching it.
Coincidentally? Like, or you weren't like booked with him. Like,
No.
Hey, there's Dan Patrick and Joey
No.
Fatone.
No.
You weren't on a float? You were just standing there watching, and then one of the guys from NSYNC was standing next to you?
Yes. Yeah. I live a very interesting life. Yes.
What do you say when the parade's over? Bye, bye, bye. Did you do one of those?
It's not bad.
B plus, B minus. What do we got?
Solid reference.
Thank
No?
you, Todd. I didn't say. I didn't even think of that. I probably didn't know any NSYNC songs.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, I don't know about that either.
Britney Spears solo.
Oh, come on. Let that go.
Never.
Let that go. I'm proud that I went to a Britney Spears concert by myself.
Good for you. Why not?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Remember I begged you not to mention that on the radio?
Yes, you did.
I'm like, don't mention that on the
Yeah.
radio.
And I went, no, I have no problem with that. And you share with the audience there. They share with me, I share with them. Tokyo Olympic president dismisses comments about delaying the game. Can we go back to that last picture? We got a problem here. Can we show the picture with me?
Including.
Oh my God. I've mentioned that Dylan is the guy who does graphics, and he picked up our breakfast like as late as, 2 weeks ago. So he's been pretty good, but he had a typo on a video that went viral. Like millions and millions of people saw this.
Look, a lot of people can get breakfast and spell. We went with someone who could get breakfast and couldn't spell. I think that shows that we are open-minded here. We're not opposed to having spelling challenge people working here, as long as they can bring me some bacon and frickin' eggs.
It's the worst feeling in the world. I feel bad for Dylan. But I'm sure, the thing about Dan Patrick's show is when you make a mistake of any form, people forget about it instantly. They don't bring it back up for 7, 8, 9 years every day.
This is the equivalent of Mario missing a shot in the AUAA.
I'm happy to be let off the hook. I feel like people are going to remember that now more so than my mess up.
This show is essentially built on putting unqualified people in positions they're not qualified for. So Dylan fit right in when we made our breakfast guy, the graphics, I don't know, supervisor, coordinator. I don't even know what his actual title is.
Dylan originally wasn't part of the team, and as of 3 weeks ago, Dylan had never used Photoshop, so things are really looking up. Ready, 29. 3, 2, 1, 29, go.
All our mothers in the U.S. so asking to dance with them slow. And we're living here in Allentown, and they've taken all the coal from the ground.
Oh, by the way, we got trouble brewing in the chat room. I opened this up. I said to Mario, let the fans in the chat room vote on what they want to be called. And we gave them 4 choices. They came up with 4 names, and the fanettes won. And Seton says there's some social unrest there in the chat room for the Dan Patrick Show.
Oh, boy, is there ever. We're going on what's today, Wednesday?
Yeah.
Day 3 of just people there. And there's not a lot of people happy in the chat room with fanettes.
Okay.
Because they said that it's kind of demeaning to them.
We're aware.
Yeah.
We're aware of the term.
We're aware, fanettes. We know.
Yeah.
But there, a lot of people are there would rather be chat row instead of like front row, back row, chat row.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
Mario put it. You know who? Blame Mario. Mario is the one that put it out, and I said, have them vote over the weekend.
Well, see, I blame them. They're the ones that came up with fanettes.
Yeah.
So it's their own fault.
Yes, Paulie.
He put it out during the weekend. I think the weekend people in there don't match up with the people who are in there during the week. I didn't even know there's people there during the weekend.
All right.
We got to close that thing down.
Well, I don't want social unrest there, but if you guys want to vote on something, or you just if it's a blanket, the chat row, unlike the NFL Players Association, we can have a revote if you want to.
J.J. Watt said, no way in hell.
Yeah.
If you look right now, I think they're voting because there's just thousands of comments flying in every minute, and it's just the words chat row.
Yeah, but
although actually, it's like chat row, Seton, you're the absolute worst. Chat row, chat row.
Mario sucks.
Right. All of a sudden, you just pick out these random things. Play Mario, chat row.
I'm fine with chat row. God. I try to do something nice, and this is what happens. No good deed. I even said, hey, come up with a T-shirt. We'll come up with T-shirts for the chat room. Chat row. Yes, Paul.
A lot of people saying this is the second biggest miss of Mario's career. It always will be. Too soon.
Yeah.
Never forget.
Well. Todd, what did you learn today?
I learned that we're still having a social unrest situation in the
It's ending. It's going to end here in 7 minutes. Then it's over. It's over. McLovin?
I have those poll results. Do you want them?
No, I don't want them.
So we're just putting it out socially? You're not even going to announce it on the show?
No. See,
that's a tease for Monday,
That's a tease, yes.
Tune in Monday to find out.
No, tomorrow.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it's not Friday. Dang.
No,
Today's not
it's
Friday?
Wednesday. It's Wednesday. Never mind. This show brought to you by LegalZoom. Need to make it legal, make it LegalZoom.com. Make sure you use the promo code Patrick in the box at checkout. LegalZoom, where life meets legal. I think we'll talk to you tomorrow.